Hey, welcome back to ZombieTactics today. Introducing a couple of guns for purposes of illustration. Here I've got a recently purchased used Glock 19. Really good shape. This thing's barely seen any use, and it's a Glock 19. What can you say? It's a great gun. And then an older gun I've got. This is a Glock 22. And if I turn this around a little bit, you can see that it's definitely seen a little bit of wear here. And this is going to figure into this video here in a second. The Glock 22 is a little older, and I've decided to turn it into a 9mm Glock instead of a 40 caliber Smith & Wesson. So I've thrown a Lone Wolf 40-9 conversion barrel in there that you can see. It works great in this configuration, by the way. That barrel is a little heavier than the 40 caliber barrel puts a little weight up there. This is actually sort of, if you want to think of it this way, this Glock 22 is actually my favorite Glock 17. Think about that for a second. The Glock 17 is the 9mm version of this gun. So yeah, that. But if you take an older Glock, particularly one like this that was a police trade-in, and you compare it to a newer Glock, you'll notice a couple things. And one of them is, if you've seen a lot of wear, the grip surface, the grip texture starts to seem a lot less grippy, a lot less tacky. You just can't get a hold of it as well as you could with a newer gun. This has got a lot more, grippiness, or whatever you want to call it, adhesion to your hand, because the pattern has not been worn down through continuous use. That's one of the reasons why you might want to get into something called stippling. And stippling is where you take a soldering iron or some kind of a press or mold, and you stipple or mold a little pattern into that gun that isn't the original pattern, and it'll raise the surface a little bit and give you something to grip onto. Now, a lot of companies do this. And they do it in various patterns. You can get it that looks like wood, or it looks like some kind of snake skin or something like that. But a lot of people just do it kind of on a hobby level. You get a soldering iron and you go for it, and you learn your way around it. Well, I decided to do that because my Glock 22, which is kind of a fake Glock 17 because of the 49 conversion barrel, it just doesn't feel as grippy compared to the Glock 19 or any one of the newer Glocks that I've had my hands on lately. So I decided to minimally do a little bit of stippling and kind of wade into this one step at a time. Like most things, I tend to research them a lot, maybe over-research them. So in looking for a soldering iron, I found out one thing. You need to get one that definitely gets above about 490, 500 degrees or more if it's going to be able to melt that plastic surface, that polymer surface effectively. So that's one thing you really have to look for. The other thing I've noticed is that a lot of people, they try to get all these little interesting patterns and things. So I was looking for a way to maybe try to experiment with that without going to all the expense of getting some complicated presses and molds and things like that to put a snakeskin pattern or whatever in the side of the gun. And while researching that, I came upon this. Radio Shack makes this soldering kit that they actually call the 11-piece electronic and hobby soldering kit. It is a 20-watt soldering iron, and it has some unique things in the kit here. This is why I'm going to show you this tonight. It'll be of interest to you. Of course, the main thing is it's a 20-watt soldering iron, and it gets up to 860 degrees Fahrenheit, which is what we need. We need a temperature above 500 degrees to melt that polymer, as I said. And aside from that, it's got some unique features for it, going for it. One of them that I really like is that it's fairly small, so you can hold it like a pencil instead of kind of like a big fat gun type or anything like that. And it actually has this silicone heat shield area up here where you can, or silicone heat shield area up here, where you can even grip up further on that soldering iron surface. Now you notice something here. This tip doesn't look like much of a tip right now. It just looks kind of weird and circular. Actually, you could use it like that if you wanted to. But the big thing that really attracted me to this and led me to this right off the bat, aside from the fact that it was only a $20 kit and it did everything else right, is it comes with all of these different screw-on tips. So I can screw on a very fine kind of a pointed tip like this. I'm not sure how well that's going to show up on camera. I don't think I can get that to focus. A very fine pointed tip like this. I've got a couple of chisel tips that I'll show you here. One that's kind of a flat chisel face, and the other one that is more angled. It also has, well, a couple of other more pointed tips, And you probably aren't going to see a lot of difference in them, but they are different in diameter or the pointiness of the tip. So there's a couple more of those. This one's been used lately. I'll show you where in a second. Kind of a round nose tip here. That's going to be really interesting to do some things with. A really, really fine tip, what they're calling a scroll tip, that I think is interesting because you can get it to go like this or like that. And then this really interesting tip that looks like this. Look at that thing. And an actual blade. So lots of variations that you can work with for doing stippling on your gun. Now, I've waded into this slowly, like I said, so all I've done so far is I've taken the backstrap portion here where there's the little square areas and the forward grip area where the little square areas, and you might be able to see a small amount of difference between the 19 and the 22 here. You can kind of see a little difference, and it makes it quite a bit more grippy. So just that suggestion on the Radio Shack kit. Go ahead and check that one out. Here's the part number again. It's only about 20 bucks. If you want to get into stippling, I suggest this is a good place to start. And I'll be doing a few more videos on stippling, I think, in the time coming here as I get more and more into it. That's Zombie Tactics for today, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.